Show of hands, who of you could use a few hours, maybe a few days, of daydreaming and pure relaxation? Hi everybody, I'm Celia Klein. I'm a real estate agent with High Garden Real Estate here in the Myrtle Beach area. And guess what? We have found that place for you. Today's episode of Talk of the Town brings you to Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. This naturally beautiful area is basically in between the ocean and the Wacccamaw River. So that means it's really, if you look at a map, a place where, let's just say, if you wanted to hide, you could do so pretty easily. And you know what? Back in the 1700s, that's exactly what they did. And that's where some of the stories of this area begin. Let's talk about the pirate known as Blackbeard. His real name was Ed Teach, and that doesn't sound very exciting, does it? So because of his very dark beard, he became known as Blackbeard. And oh my goodness, he would smuggle so many things from those vessels that were going up and down the colonies on the East Coast. Well, he got caught finally, but the story lives on. How about you? Are you ready to make your own story in Murrells Inlet? Let's find out more about the area. We're here at Marshwalk. This is one of the top destinations for Murrells Inlet. And can I just say one word to describe this? Yum! There's about 10 restaurants in this area around the boardwalk, and that's gonna include Drunken Jack's, the one behind me, Dead Dog Saloon, Wicked Tuna, and the new one, Neptune. It is just such a great place. And they've got so many events around here, all of course including some great live music. You have the Taste of the Marshwalk, which happens in early spring. You also have the tradition of the July 4th boat parade. Oh my goodness, this one is big because you've got the people on the boats all decorated going through the inlet, and you've got the people on the other shoreline, and guess what? They all have water guns. People get soaked, it's hysterical. And of course there are fireworks. It is one of the best events on the Grand Strand celebrating July 4th. And then you also have other events around this area. In the fall, you've got Bike Week that's coming through the Murrells Inlet area. You also have some other fabulous restaurants that are not a part of Marshwalk, but are definitely a part of the character of Murrells Inlet. And that's gonna be on the other side of the inlet, closer to the ocean. Places like Gulfstream Cafe, they have an amazing Sunday brunch. And sunset from that area, I don't know that there's a place that can beat it, honestly. You've got a lot of eating to do, so get going. If anybody knows the true story of the area, it's gonna be these guys at Hot Fish Club. This building is the oldest restaurant structure in the entire Grand Strand. Even though Murrells Inlet got its name from the post office in 1913, they, as you can see from the sign, have been here since the late 1700s. So even though there might be, about 6 different versions of the story of the guy Drunken Jack, I have a feeling these guys know the real story. Now, they have phenomenal food here. We're gonna call this Murrells Inlet the seafood capital of South Carolina. Some might say it's even beyond that, but then the people up in Calabash, North Carolina, those are fighting words. Which one do you think is offering the best seafood? Right now, I'm hanging out at Drunken Jack's at the Marshwalk area. Over my shoulder, you see an area referred to as Goat Island. Yep, another story. So when Goat Island would have a lot of grasses growing, they had to figure out a way to trim it back. And that's kind of hard to do when you got to get across a marsh to reach it. So what would they do? They would bring in goats, and the goats would just munch away. And this happened up until recently. It was not until the effects of Hurricane Ian that basically eroded a lot of that area around the island that it made it a little too unsafe to keep the goats there for the season. So the owner of Drunken Jack's decided, let's go ahead and keep them at their permanent home, which is just about 10-15 minutes away from here on a farm in Socastee area of Myrtle Beach. And so Goat Island, the story and legend lives on, but maybe you can notice what's now there are metal sculptures of goats instead of the real thing. At only 7.5 square miles, it's a pretty compact area. But let me tell you, there's a lot of opportunity for fun in those 7.5 square miles. Not only do we have some stunning golf courses, including here behind me at Wacccamaw Plantation, you've got TPC Myrtle Beach as a part of the Prince Creek community, and also courses around the International Club. Don't forget, we've got a lot of water too. On the Wacccamaw, you have got the Waccawachi Marina. Beautiful. Got a restaurant there too, of course. And you have lots of people who you can do charter boats for cruises or certainly for fishing. And then it's also where you've got one of the locations for Freedom Boat Club. Well, what's that? Well, that's the easy way to go boating. That's when you pay for a membership and you take classes to make sure you know what you're doing on that boat. But then when you and your friends are ready to go out on a Saturday or Sunday or whenever, you just call them up and say, this is the kind of boat I want, have it ready for me by 1 o'clock, and it's taken care of for you. It's actually a pretty good deal so that you don't have all of the work that is involved in owning a boat. Something to consider. The premier place to visit when you are in Murrells Inlet absolutely is Brookgreen Gardens. And we have a great opportunity to have a chance to speak with Lauren Josephs. She is the VP of Marketing here. I first want to talk about, how did Brookgreen Gardens come to be?
Well, it's a great history. We are almost 100 years old. The Huntingtons, Archer Huntington and Anna Hyatt Huntington, came down to South Carolina. It was just going to be their kind of getaway. So they found this beautiful property that used to be 4 different rice plantations.
Wow.
And fell in love with it.
How many acres is this?
The entire property is over 9,000 acres.
Oh my goodness.
And includes the state park across the street.
This property backs up to the Wacccamaw River.
Yes, it does.
That's how you got so much of your items into this area.
Exactly. That was really the highway. And that's the first place that the Huntingtons set foot. But as soon as they got here, they realized they just needed to share it with everyone.
Everybody knows these are stunning gardens, hence Brookgreen Gardens. But what you may not know is it is also considered a museum and a historical site. So I wanted to ask Lauren about, how do we have so many of these beautiful pieces here?
Well, Anna Hyatt Huntington was one of the premier sculptors in the United States in the early part of the 1900s. 1931 is when they bought this property, and there was something else going on in the early 30s. A lot of sculptors were losing their livelihood. So they started collecting sculpture and commissioning sculpture from other artists. And we're continuing that today. We continually add to the collections. So if you come out to Brookgreen and you haven't been here in 5 years, you're going to see a lot of sculpture that wasn't here 5 years ago.
Wow.
We are a fully accredited museum by the Association of Museums, and we're also a fully accredited zoo.
That's something I was not expecting her to say that. I thought we were about, trees and flowers and sculptures and a zoo. Tell me.
We are a zoo. Anna loved to actually sculpt animals, and so that's kind of where the zoo started from. But yes, we have a native wildlife zoo, so you're not going to see things like giraffes and rhinoceroses and things here, but you're going to see the creatures that are native to this part of South Carolina.
Okay. Absolutely. And I think about the many different ways that people enjoy Brookgreen Gardens. Obviously there are private events, weddings, etc. But the one that people know about probably internationally is Night of 1,000 Candles.
This is our 25th year
Is it
of
really?
Nights of 1,000 Candles. And we get people from all over the world to come to Brookgreen. The legacy that they left, it's wonderful, and it's such a gift to our area.
Well, Lauren, I can't thank you enough for all of this wonderful information. You need to come visit here. You need to bring everybody. The kids will love it. There's so many wonderful walkways and things to see. So I really hope that everyone, if you haven't been, this absolutely needs to be on your list when you come and take a visit to the area. Adelia, Adelia. How do you say it? Well, a lot of people around here say Adelia, but I just double checked with Brookgreen Gardens, and they tell me, in fact, it is Adelia. Now here's the question, do you know what it means? It's actually a Spanish word. It's Spanish for watchtower, and it has, in fact, had a rich history of being a watchtower. In fact, during World War II, the castle was taken over by the U.S. Army Air Corps to serve as an area to patrol the coastline for any potential attacks from German U-boats. Again, we are a place rich with stories, aren't we? Murrells Inlet is the first town in Georgetown County. And I tell you, if you really are observant, you're gonna notice that difference right away. You know why? Trees. These live oaks are everywhere, and it brings such peace and such natural beauty to this area. You're also gonna notice things like, you're not gonna have a lot of the commercialization you may have up in Myrtle Beach. You're not gonna have any of the, say, miniature golf courses, but you do have some real golf courses. But before we talk about that, let's also talk about, again, in the midst of all these gorgeous, lush trees and landscape, you find a lot of the Murrells Inlet residential real estate. So believe it or not, in this area, and Murrells Inlet is about 7.5 square miles, and of that, 0.3 is water. So when we talk about residential real estate in a very compact area, there actually aren't a lot of subdivisions. So of course this one, Wacccamaw Plantation, is one of the most sprawling and beautiful in the area. And you're going to have a lot of different types of real estate here in Wacccamaw Plantation. You have cottages, townhomes, single family that are just so stunningly beautiful. A lot more use of brick and stucco in here than you may have seen in some other communities. It really offers a lot of beautiful choices. Other areas to consider in Murrells Inlet for subdivisions, you may think of Indigo Creek or Prince Creek, which is another large residential area. You also have Salters Cove, a little bit closer to the water. And then you also have beautiful places like Mount Gilead and Robin Hood. Now keep in mind, some of these are in areas that are not a true subdivision. So if you are a person that does not want to deal with an HOA, you actually have a lot of choices in the Murrells Inlet area. Let's talk about pricing really quickly for these residential subdivisions. Huge range. You could be going anywhere from the 400s well over $1 million. Again, there's some great choices to consider here. I'm standing in front of a beautiful old brick building that currently serves as the clubhouse for the golf course at Wacccamaw Plantation. But you can bet there's a story on this land too. So this started many, many years ago when the Flagg family owned this plantation. So it was Mom and her son and his sister. So he didn't want his sister to just be hanging out and falling in love with any old man. But guess what she did? That's what love does, right? And so Alice, she fell in love with a lumberman. And in those days, that was the riffraff, because the doctor, he wanted to make sure that she was falling in love with somebody else who owned a plantation. She wasn't having that. The lumberman, well, he gave her a ring to make sure that she remembered his love, and she put it around her neck and hid it underneath her dress so that no one knew this love still existed. Well, to make sure it didn't exist, the brother sent her to a boarding school in Charleston. This sounds like, I don't know, one of those stories that Andy Cohen does. It's tragic. So then she falls ill in Charleston. He goes to get her to bring her back to the family home called the Hermitage. And sure enough, she falls into a coma. While she's in a coma, he sees the necklace with the ring and takes it off and throws it into the creek. She is so distraught. There are stories of her just scratching, looking for this ring, and it's not there. And she is just so sorrowful, she dies the next day. Now the legend of the woman in the white dress, what was supposed to be her wedding dress, is now going through the areas of Murrells Inlet still to this day looking for her wedding ring. Can you believe that story? Again, there's about 25 versions of that. The Hermitage used to be on this property. The developer took and relocated the home, and now Wacccamaw Plantation is a stunning residential luxury community, and we're happy to show it to you. As you can see, I've got the ocean behind me. That's the Garden City Pier. So how can I still be in Murrells Inlet? And in fact, I am. Clearly, we're on the east side of Murrells Inlet, and this peninsula is Wacccamaw Drive. We're headed south on Wacccamaw Drive. This area is just in such demand for vacationers and investors. Let me tell you why. The math works out for both sides. As an investor, you may be a party of one, you may be a party of several that have pulled your funds together and you have purchased either maybe an older home, maybe about 1.25, 1.5. You might even decide to tear it down to build something more grand and certainly up to code, allowing more people to vacation in your property. That means you're bringing in more income, because guess what? Some of these beautiful homes on the ocean, they are bringing in peak season anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 a night. I know, crazy. However, let's look at it on the other side. If you are a renter and you know that you can get a house that has anywhere from say 8 to 12 bedrooms and can hold anywhere from say 15 to 25 people, well gosh, you could have either your neighborhood buddies or you can have your mini family reunion. Everybody, gosh, that could be like 5 families of 4 each. Divvy that up, because think about what you would have rented for a weekly rent or for a condo or a place of your own. Just collect all those funds and enjoy a stunning home right on the ocean. Like this one happens to be managed by Wacccamaw. There are plenty of other companies to consider, but I thank them for letting us film on one of their lovely homes. Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. What a place full of colorful stories. What's your story gonna be here? What's gonna make you legendary? Hey, if you are thinking about, instead of just visiting Murrells Inlet, making it home, I sure hope you'll consider giving me a call. My name is Celia Klein. I'm with High Garden Real Estate. I love doing these videos to show you what our area has to offer. So if you have any questions, whether about Murrells Inlet or otherwise, please give me a call, 843-321-9646. And hey, if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's called @Carolina Coast TV. It has a ton of videos about different things in our area. So if you, your friends, anybody's considering about making this area home, be sure to subscribe. And hey, you never know, maybe your castle in the sand is right here.